I would now like to have Tony Hilliard introduce our speaker, Sue, please.
Good afternoon. Our speaker today is Sue VerHoef. She's the Senior Archivist and Staff Genealogist at the Kenan Research Center of the Atlanta History Center. She received a Bachelor of Arts degree from Brigham Young University, and after teaching for the City College of Chicago in Rota, Spain, she returned to Atlanta and taught English and Social Studies in Henry County, while completing a master's degree in history at the University of West Georgia. Sue has had extensive experience with interviewing and recording histories, including interviews with Georgians from Spalding and Bibb counties about their experiences working with German prisoners of war in the spring and summer of 1945. She has worked closely with the AVVBA in support of our Legacy Project. She's going to speak to us today about the History Center's expanded efforts to collect veteran stories and make them available to the public. Sue is a self-described Air Force brat and a long-suffering Navy wife. I will tell you from personal experience that Sue is a very strong supporter of veterans' activities, and she's been a good friend to the Atlanta Vietnam Veterans Business Association. She can fly on my wing anytime. Please welcome Sue VerHoef.
Thank you. I am so humbled and honored to be here today to stand in front of all of you. You are my heroes. I'm such a groupie. It's really kind of pathetic, but I'm so grateful for your service and want to say that before I forget. Thank you for your service, and thank you to your families for all that they did to put up with all those years that you spent doing what you're doing. I love the prayer this morning. That was amazing. You went to an unpleasant place and did unpleasant things, and we thank you for your service. I'm here today for two reasons. The first reason, first and foremost, I'd like to tell you a little bit about what we do. I was glad that you had, those of you who have been interviewed at the History Center, I was glad that you all stood up. I hope that those of you who haven't been interviewed yet will grab one of these guys and ask them about it, ask them about that experience. So what I'd like to start off with is just a little bit about what we are and what we do, and we'll hope that our technology holds out. We love technology, don't we? Well, that's not promising. Okay. Well, you know, where's my wireless? We got the wireless mic?
There we go.
Did it work?
I'll be wireless.
Oh, you're going to be, okay. Oh.
He's from Auburn, he can do that.
All right. We're going to keep trying. Let me see if this will do it backwards. Maybe I'm just not pointing. There we go. Okay, you know what? I'm good now. I'm good now. I'm a recovering middle school teacher too, by the way, I'll tell you that. So usually I project pretty good. Once I get going, I'm all right. Okay, so a little bit about us. What I'd like to tell you about us is, number one, we are a founding partner with the Library of Congress in their Veterans History Project initiative. So a copy of each of the interviews in our collection does go to the Library of Congress to be archived. However, we've been doing it since before that program started up. We've been actively collecting veteran stories since 1999. We have over 450 interviews in our collection right now. World War II, Korea, Vietnam, a scattering of Gulf War and Afghanistan conflicts. Our collection, I think, is a little short on that. We're hoping to change that, though. We're hoping to gather as many of those stories as we possibly can, too. So yeah, over 450, and we're still moving. We're still going from there. We also have the Veterans Plaza, and that's the image that you see on the screen right now. The Veterans Plaza came about for a number of reasons, but I wanted to pay special tribute today to our CEO, Sheffield Hale. I don't think you'll find a greater and more passionate advocate for veterans than Sheffield, and I personally am very grateful for all the things that he has done since he's come to the Atlanta History Center. He came a couple years after I did. I've only been there since 2008. But he is passionate about veterans as well. And with a generous grant from the Home Depot company, And with the participation of the AVVBA and a number of other veterans groups, we were able to put this plaza together, and it's a phenomenal place. It's a wonderful gathering place. I understand that prior to the construction of the plaza way back in 2000 and, I have to get this straight, 2001, September 11th, 2001, it was an impromptu gathering place for people to come after the 9/11 attacks to reflect and to think about this country and to think about the sacrifices that our first responders and our military members have made. Now that we have the plaza there, a formal place, a wonderful place, there's a beautiful fountain. There are panels scattered throughout the park, and on those panels are information about some of the veterans who have participated in our Veterans History Project, along with QR codes that you can use your smartphone or your iPad or your cellular device and snap on those codes and be able to listen and view those interviews right there on the plaza. It opened on Memorial Day last year, and we're very grateful to have it. It's a good place to go, so I'd encourage you to come visit that. I love this clicker. There we go. Stories of Sacrifice. I don't know how many of you were able to attend that. Oops. You know, and this is right in front of the boss. You have to just, it's like, you know, can this possibly get yours? When the boss is here. Is this not working either?
Mic is not on.
It's red.
The switch in the middle.
Now it's on.
No,
Now
it's
it's
not.
on?
No, in the middle.
In the middle.
There we go.
In the switch in the middle.
All right. Okay, Sheffield, you can fire me when we get back to the office. All right.
There we go, there you go.
Stories of Sacrifice. The Stories of Sacrifice program was initiated in November of this past year on Veterans Day. We partnered with the Atlanta Journal-Constitution to provide a free public program where we and StoryCorps, I don't know how many of you are familiar with StoryCorps, they are a nationwide nonprofit dedicated to gathering oral histories. StoryCorps and we and the Atlanta Journal-Constitution partnered to put on this program where we, again, spotlighted some of the stories in our collection. Stories of Sacrifice is going to be an ongoing program. I don't know how many of you were able to attend our most recent installment last Wednesday, February 26th. We were honored to have the 8th Air Force Heritage Society with us, and there were five veterans of the 8th Air Force who got up on the stage, all of them in their 70s, 80s, and 90s, and talked about what that experience was like. It was a phenomenal program. So we're grateful to have that as well. All right, just a little bit about what happens. Before the interview, we're hoping that you'll all take part in this, but before our interviews, a couple of things need to happen. First and foremost, we ask you to fill out a biographical data form. That just kind of gives us the indication that you are interested in participating, and when you fill out that form, it's really just basically you giving your contact information to us and a little bit of information about your service so that we can best prepare for the interview. When I receive that biographical data form, the next step in the process is for you to schedule an interview with our amazing interviewers, Tony Hilliard and Joe Breitner. I can't say enough about these gentlemen. The rapport that they develop immediately with the fellows that they interview and with the women that they interview is extraordinary. They are absolutely smooth as silk. They can get your engines going and get you started on your stories, and when it comes time to wrap up the interview, they are experts at guiding you to the off-ramp so that you can get off stage gracefully. So you will schedule the interview at a time that's convenient for you. Mondays and Fridays tend to work best for us, but we can certainly work around that. So the interview will be scheduled at a time that's convenient for you. We encourage you to bring photographs and memorabilia. Anything that you've got that you'd like to share, that can be captured on camera as well. And we find, I don't know about you, but pictures are evocative for me, and they help me to remember details. They help me to remember things. So we hope that you'll feel free to bring photos and other memorabilia to share during your interview. First and foremost, this is your story, and we want to make sure that you tell your story the way that you want to. So that's a little bit about the pre-interview aspects, what goes on before the interview. During the interview, this is what will happen. We've got a professional grade recording studio. We were very lucky to acquire this as part of our partnership with StoryCorps. It's a beautiful space. that we share with them. We've got professional lighting, we've got really high quality sound, we've got a nice high quality monitor that we hook up to it so we can also see how the interview is progressing visually. It's a high definition camera that we capture these interviews with. Images are absolutely beautiful and the sound is absolutely beautiful. It really is a great way to capture these stories. And again, it's your story, so we want to make sure that you tell it the way that you want to. And Tony and Joe are experts at getting that done. Here's a recent participant. Y'all recognize that face, right? Such a handsome man.
Lighting won't help him.
Who's that old man?
Said that a bark bucket?
He is awesome. How can you say that? Shame on you.
They brought him in from the nursing home.
I'm sorry, Max. Don't listen to them. This other image is of Thomas Bryant. He was another one of our December interviews.
That was Max's son.
And again, these are taken in the studio after the interviews. And then here's our most recent interviewee. This is Clarence Hawkins. He was a lot of fun to talk to. He's a gentleman in his 90s as well. He was in one of the mountain infantry battalions. And he was a great interview too. So that's just a little bit about what it looks like. Smiling faces, they finished their interview, they're happy, they're glad that they did it. So that was my first reason for being here, was to give you a little bit of background information on what's involved in the process and how to go about doing it. We've got some literature at the back of the room, some brochures about the Veterans History Project, and there's a stack of biographical data forms there. I hope that you'll grab one. There's also a stack of my business cards there. On the back of my business card is a guest pass for you and a guest to come to the History Center for free. But I hope you use it also to contact me if there's ever anything that I can do to help you get set up. So that's about the process. But there's a second reason why I'm here today, and this one is really the most important. After the interview, release forms, we'll have you sign those right quick before you leave the room for us, and all that really does is just give us your permission to be able to provide your interview experience for researchers who come to do research on World War II or on whatever conflict you may have participated in. So we do that right quick. We provide a DVD to you of your entire interview, a high quality DVD that you can take home and share. You're welcome to make copies of it. And as I mentioned before, a copy will also go to the Library of Congress to be archived there. It's transcribed fully. We have an amazing volunteer. Her name happens to be Sue as well. She's the best Sue of the two of us. She has gotten so good at this. She transcribes the interviews from the video, and she can do it in about 2 sittings. She comes once a week, spends about 4 hours at a sitting, and she can get those interviews fully transcribed and edited and ready to go in about 2 sittings. So the interview will be completely transcribed, and it's going to be available, they are all going to be available on the web sometime in the next year. We're very grateful to have just received a grant from the Scott Hudgens Family Foundation to enable us to digitize the entire collection. I just took 460 interviews over to Crawford Media Services 2 days ago. They're going to digitize the entire batch, and sometime in the next year they will all be cataloged. Digitizing is kind of the easy part. The harder part is cataloging these so that, whatever unit you served in, someone can go on our website and search for that unit, can search for that locality, can search for your buddies that you might maybe have mentioned in the interview, and hone in directly on your interview that way. The full interviews will be available through our website along with the transcriptions. Now, we're not quite there yet, but I wanted to kind of show you what this is going to look like if our Wi-Fi will work. This is our web page. And this is the oral history component of the web page. So there's a little bit of information about what the program is. And then if you scroll down a little bit here closer to the bottom, you see we've got World War II vets. Now it's going to look a little different when we finish this because not all of the interviews have been digitized yet. What these are small clips. These are 3 to 4 minute clips of each of these interviews. But we've got some great World War II content in there. Scrolling down a little bit further, we've got some wonderful Korean War stories. We've got some great Vietnam War stories, and here's one that I think you guys will recognize. Click on him right quick. while I was waiting to get set up, I neglected to plug in my speaker. Hold on just a sec.
They called us in. They were still under fire. We landed, and as we landed, noticed that the ground troops were all laying in the grass, right where we were landing. And our crew got out to get the ground troops to bring the casualties over the aircraft, and they would not stand up to bring the casualties over. So our crew had to go get the casualties, bring them over to the aircraft, load them up, and we got out of there. We had to do that 2 more times, another time during the daylight hours and then once at night. And each time the ground troops, because of their enemy action, would not stand up to help us load. Another occasion with the 25th Infantry, they had to blow an LZ, knock down trees for me to get in. I was able to land and put one skid up against one of the trees that were laying in the LZ for stability. And our crew started loading casualties, and kept pulling power, just sitting there. And I kept asking, "Are you loaded?" "No, sir, we're still loading casualties." And finally they said, "Okay, we're ready to go." And so I pulled power, and fortunately I had that H model Huey, and was able to climb right out. And I said, "Well, y'all in and buckled in?" "No, sir, we're out on the skids, we can't get in." And they filled up the entire cabin with casualties. And I asked them to count, "How many do we have?" And they said, "We have 12 casualties and a crew of 4. So we came out of that area with 16 Americans on board. Again, because of that engine that was able to provide us the necessary.
Is that the largest load of casualties you ever evacuated?
Yeah.
Sue was blown away by that one. When we were looking for interviews to focus, to spotlight on, she said, "Sue, you have got to include him because this guy is just incredible." And there's so many similar to that. Another one that I thought I'd share with you right quick. This one was actually done in our new studio. See if we can do a better job at getting the sound ready on this one right away.
I lost a lot of roommates. One man that was with me lasted 2 weeks, and another one lasted 2 months. But that was pretty tough. We worked in support of the Special Forces primarily, and I would work on the ground. I went out on patrols with them and set up the ambushes and did all the stuff on the ground and in the air. The ground war is different.
Sorry, it's an internet issue.
Different than the air war.
Yeah, talk about that a little bit.
Well, in the air, if somebody goes out and flies and doesn't come back, you have nice words for it. He bought the farm, he crashed and burned, he augured in, but that's it, you know, he's gone. You don't, on the ground, you can smell the burning flesh. You can hear the screams of the guys that are dying. You're in it. In the air, no, it's a clean war. You know, you blow up, you're gone, you're dead, and that's it. Your wife gets a telegram. But it's a completely different kind of war. A couple of years ago, I went on a tour back to that area, and the tour was in Cambodia and Laos and other places. We enjoyed that. They offered us Vietnam too. And I said, no, I don't think so. I'm not ready to go back to Vietnam yet, and it's only been 50 years.
Yeah.
But I lost good friends. I got shot at. Few people in civilian life realize the sacrifices that the military make to stay in the military. Most, I think, stay in just purely for patriotism, because they love America, they love freedom, they love the flag, and I guess I fall into that category, but I didn't stay in. I served almost 10 years. I was in Korea, I was in Vietnam, I was in Germany. But every year or two you move, your furniture gets pilfered and beat up, and the family has to change schools, and it's a tough life for the military. And I'm proud of these guys.
That was Robin O'Brien. He served both in Korea and in Vietnam. So that's a sample of what's going to be available on the web within the next year or so. Except what we'll be ultimately doing is we'll be putting the full interviews and the transcripts on the web for you, for your families, and for researchers. All right, so what's my second reason for being here? I have an ulterior motive. This is Colonel Logan O'Shett. He was a graduate of West Point, graduated from West Point in 1919. This is my grandfather. I know a little bit about his service. I've got a few of his papers. I've got a little invitation to a soiree that they were providing in the Russian sector of occupied Berlin after the close of World War II. So I know it had something to do with the liaison to the Russian sector. I know he worked in intelligence a little bit. I got a few pictures of him in New Guinea. I know he worked in the Pacific Theater for a while. He didn't pass away until I was married with several children. So I knew him for a long time, but I don't know a whole lot about his record. Don't know a whole lot about what he did and what that was like, because like most veterans, like most of you, he didn't think he did anything important. This is Major Jack Hardy. This is my dad. He was in the 8th Air Force in England, worked at Bomber Command Headquarters. Pine Tree is what they called it in High Wycombe. Much of what I've learned about his service I actually learned after he passed away. He also never thought that he did anything important, although I've just recently been contacted by the son of some Dutch resistance fighters who apparently my dad helped pick up in his job as an air sea rescue guy. Plucked him up out of the English Channel, and my dad was the one that was taking video of that. And so these folks have contacted me and said, you know, because of your dad, I've got video of my dad doing this great thing in World War II. But he wouldn't talk much about it. I know that I know he worked in the 8th Air Force. I know he was in Strategic Air Command at the close of the war, but I could never really get him to talk about it. You know, occasionally he'd get a little liquored up, and he'd talk a little bit more, and I took as many notes as I could while he got liquored up. But I don't know nearly as much about his story because he didn't think he did anything important. And this is Lieutenant Randy VerHoef. This is my husband. He was an intelligence officer, so I love all those jabs about intel officers. Randy used to say that naval intelligence was a contradiction in terms. He also used to say that the Navy was 300 years of tradition unhampered by progress. He was an intelligence officer with HS-8, helicopter squadron on the USS Ranger and on the USS Constellation. We also spent 7 years in Spain. He worked at Fosif Rota, and he worked with VQ2. And those were great years, and I was there for most of them. But I still don't know much about his service because he never thought that he did anything important. I love these guys. They're all gone now, all three of them. I would give anything, I would give anything to hear their voices again, telling me what they did, explaining that the small part that they played in this great country, in the defense of this great country, for the rest of us who are still here. So, here's me and my dad, just after he got out. He didn't retire, he got out as a major. There's some stories about the fact that my grandfather had him investigated or something because he wasn't sure he liked him hanging around with his daughter. I'm not sure if that's true, but anyway, he got out as a major, and that's me and him. And here's my husband with 3 of our 4 children. The last one was born after this picture was taken. So let me just tell you this. Maybe you think that you didn't do anything important. Maybe you don't think these oral history is important for you to do. Maybe you don't have family that are close here right now. Maybe you've got family that you don't think are interested in your service. Let me tell you something. The day is going to come where they're going to want to know. And they're going to be like me, where they would give a left arm to be able to hear your voice telling what you experienced. So if you won't do it for them, you won't do it for you, will you please do it for them? And that's really all I have for you. If you guys have questions, I'm here for that, but that's my plea. If you don't want to do it for you, do it for them. Yes, sir.
Don't leave yet. Anybody have any questions for Sue? Okay, please, go right ahead, Mark.
Are you interested in the stories of people that are not Georgia residents?
Oh, that's a tough one. If
My
they've,
grandson was born here.
He's got it.
He lived here until he was 10.
he's got a Georgia connection. If you've got a Georgia connection of any kind, and the only reason for that is we need to, I don't want to say limit our collecting focus, but we are the Atlanta History Center, and so our mission statement does sort of reflect that we are anxious to gather, Georgia stories. If they're born, if they lived here for any length of time, if they served here, yeah. Yeah. There you go. There you go. Yes,
Will you be able to get a copy of the transcripts that we said put in our,
absolutely.
that will be offline?
The transcripts will be available online too. We digitize them, make them a PDF, and we put them up there. The thing with transcripts that's so great is with a transcript you can do a search for terms within the transcript and zero in to that portion of the interview really quickly. Your families and people that are connected with you, they're going to want to listen to the whole interview. But researchers who are looking for the veteran experience, they may not want to listen to the whole interview. They may want to zero in on what you did in whatever unit you served in. So the transcripts really help in a lot of ways. Yes, sir.
I have no Georgia connection, but I'm wondering, do they have similar services like yours in most states?
They do. There are founding partners with this Library of Congress project scattered throughout the country. You'll find a lot of VFW posts will do this. A lot of local colleges will also do this. So if you've got families scattered across the country that aren't here right now, have them look into those things. The Library of Congress website has a list of the founding partners. But if you do Veterans History Project in whatever state they're living in, Google search, you're likely to come up with something. Yeah. Yes, sir. Anything
Ronnie?
else?
Yep. Go ahead.
Are you doing transcripts of the earlier versions?
Yes, every single interview will be fully transcribed. Most of the early ones already are.
Is that something that you will send out to people who are interviewed?
Anytime they want it, absolutely. They'll be available online, but I'm happy to send a copy as an email attachment. I can do that too. Yes, sir.
Would love to have mine.
Well, yes. Take my card and shoot me an email.
Okay. I might also add, I had mine done, I think I was the first one that Tony did. It was a VHS tape. That's how long ago it was. I followed that up later on because it was almost destroyed. First ever tried to play it. I have DVDs. Got some for each one of my kids.
Good.
And they thoroughly enjoyed it. I wholeheartedly recommend that every one of you do it.
Thank you.
If you don't do it, you're going to regret it.
Thank you. I couldn't have said that better. Thank you. Yes, sir.
So I've got family around the country, and I wanted to make copies, and they provide master copy and then send one in. I went to Office Depot for $3. You could get each copy made. So I got 10 copies for $30, sent them out to the family, and everybody appreciated it. So it's pretty cheap when you really want to run some copies. But I have to use Office Depot. There may be some other sources, but it's easy to do.
And a great gift. What a great gift. Yeah.
All right. Any other questions? Yes, George?
Sue, just to deviate just a little bit off topic, I along with several other AVVBA members, went to the History Museum last Tuesday or Wednesday to hear about the Mighty Air Force. And I, gentlemen, amazed, I was privileged and humbled to hear those 5 veterans who flew over Germany, B-17s, B-24s, one was a POW, and the other one was a P-51 and so forth. They got up there, one guy was on a wheelchair, the POW, he couldn't speak, his son got up there and spoke about his experiences. I was enthralled. I was because my father was served in World War II. These guys are in the 90s, 93, 94. And what I'm making is, the only reason I went is I found out about it Sunday. My wife gave me a newspaper periodical. And
And that's when I happened to, she was running another audit, when I happened to see the museum, and I appeared. I guess my question is, how do you get the publicity out of this? Because I only saw 4 AVVBA members there. Guys, ladies, you didn't go, you missed them. It's even better. World War II, so
We need to work harder with our marketing department on that. They're excellent. They are top-notch at what they do, but I think that there are avenues that we haven't explored yet for making sure that these kinds of programs are well publicized, and we would love to continue to work with AVVBA. We would not be doing what we're doing without you guys, and we're so grateful for your help. So yeah, Tony and I and Joe and I are all kind of brainstorming, how can we get this word out? So, thank you.
One last question. Anybody else have a question? No? Good. Sue, I want to thank you very, very much. It was a great presentation. And you, since you're such a supporter, we're giving you your own Vietnam Service Medal that you now can proudly display. And also, this guarantees you that when you are drinking a lot, you will be able to have a great time. Thank you so much.